people of the World Wide Web. So Cypher Sigma here. It is the weekend and it's movie review time, and you already know what the movie is. So it's Inside Out 2. Yes, this is the sequel to Inside Out, which was, I believe, was released about 9 years ago. There have been a few changes and a few updates for this movie. So anybody who doesn't know, who hasn't seen the first one, this Inside Out is basically an explanation of emotions. So you have a young girl called Riley. She was 11 in the first movie, and she has 5 emotions. She has joy, she has anger, she has fear, she has sadness, and she has envy. No, envy's a new one. Disgust. So those are her 5 emotions. Together they kind of map out what she does and as she does it, and kind of as she navigates normal life. Fast forward 2 years in the Inside Out world, 9 years in R1, and Riley is now hitting a teenager. There are more emotions that come into it, and unfortunately the first 5 emotions get pushed back as a few other new emotions come to take over, and it's this whole story. It is... Let me get my notes because that would be handy. So it is an hour and 36 minutes long. So not that long in the grand scheme of things. It is directed by Kelsey Mann. Amy Poehler, she is the main person. She's Joy, so she's what you remember. 2 of the cast did not return, so I believe Fear and Envy, the people who voiced them, did not return due to pay issues. You don't need to really know much of that. And then we have the 5 new emotions: anxiety, envy, ennui, embarrassment, and nostalgia sprinkled in there. That is it. There is nothing, I believe, after the credits of that I saw. Actually, there is one bit after the credits. I lied. Ignore what I said. Yep, so there is one final scene. It's not massive. It doesn't. It just kind of foreshadows it earlier in the movie. But there we go. So let's bang up the spoiler warning and let's get into it. So yes, so this movie starts. We have Riley. She is 13, and it is basically her meeting her 2 best friends and them basically being a good team at hockey, and they go to these coach tryouts for 3 days, and this is where the story takes place. As she goes on this trip, she finds out her friends are going to a different high school as her, but the high school that Riley is going to is the one where this camp is situated. So she could be with the other players there, and then she meets a new or the top player there, and it's kind of her loyalty. Does she stick with her friends or does she go with this new one? And she more aims towards this newer character. But this is all down to emotions. So behind the scenes, you have the 5 emotions. They work together. But Joy has kind of the overall mindset of Riley, and she is getting rid of the old painful emotions that she doesn't think are needed, and the kind of positive ones are all put into this pool underneath where the kind of story takes place with inside Riley's head, and these kind of go into this pool of water and then they feed upwards to kind of create this plant looking thing, and it basically just says that Riley is a good person. That is Joy's thing, of just for her to be a good and all round. One night they get woken up when she's going to this trip, or just about going to this trip, by the puberty alarm, because Riley is 13, and then this is when they get a new board in, and you have these 5 new characters. First presented is Anxiety. Anxiety kind of sits in the forefront. This is voiced by Maya Hawke, so we might remember her from Stranger Things, and obviously her parents are Ethan Hawke and I can't remember who her mum is. Uma Thurman, that is who her mum is. So quite a famous person and that, and she's coming into her, and so she plays the voice of Anxiety. And anxiety has many thoughts and feelings about how it is. She obviously then comes along with Envy, who just wants to kind of be what everyone else is. Ennui, who is this purpley kind of very laid back, doesn't want to do it, but he has a little mobile phone where he can control the tablets. Embarrassment, a big bulky guy who doesn't really talk until the very end, and then Nostalgia, who pops in and out a tiny bit, but as they make a running joke that she is too early because they have to be a lot older to remember Nostalgia, which you kind of get a quite nod on, and that's done. Joy obviously wants Riley to do best by her friends and be a good person, but Anxiety obviously has other ideas, and this is where the original 5 emotions get pushed out, and they rip out what is essentially kind of the the matrix or the combination of all the good things that Riley has done, and then anxiety starts putting other ideas into it, and this is where Riley starts doing stuff which, you know, she starts kind of breaking the law, doing bad things, betraying her friends a little bit, and all this stuff. While this is going on and anxiety is taking over with the new emotions, the old emotions have then gone back to try and retrieve the original kind of creation of a good person. For Riley, that is Joy's kind of journey, why sadness kind of hides out and tries to sabotage him. And this is where kind of the story goes on, and then it leads on to the fact of Joy coming back, trying, and basically Riley being in a position where anxiety has gone so overboard that she's almost having kind of a breakdown, and then as Joy comes back and tries to override it with just the happy one, realizing that actually Riley has too many emotions and too many thoughts and feelings, and that basically she is a combination of everything she does, and Joy was wrong by getting rid of those early emotions, but anxiety's gone overboard as well, and everyone kind of needs to share, and that by sharing all these different emotions you become kind of a combination of like happy, joy, sad, fear, and all this stuff, and it is, you know, and that is a very good message. I mean, it is a very short movie that feels very packed out. There is a lot going on, and I thought it, you know, it'd be over like that, but it actually really, really enjoyable. There's loads of little bits within inside Riley's mind that are kind of clever. How they handle the new emotions and stuff, and you have little references to that, like anxiety has a little cut in the end with anxiety, like a cup of tea. Very clever that there's a big chasm that forms inside Riley's brain, and that's called the sarcasm, and anything you say comes across sarcastic, which I thought it was little bits like this that were very brilliant. And something, and when you basically break it down into this story, is a very simple story. It's literally new emotions come along, old emotions are cast out, old emotions want to get this one item and put it back to of it. That's kind of the story, pardon me, within itself, but just bringing in all these emotions and how Riley reacts to it, and saying how she starts off as she's just solidly a good person, but she does kind of bad stuff, and that's how we all are. We are, as humans, we are flawed very much, but we are all, you know, no one is ever a good person and is good 100% of the time. If there is something that they needed to be selfish for or something like that, then that would rule over, and that's a very good undertone message that I think they get across, and how they convey all these emotions and stuff, specifically in this day and age when there's stuff like anxiety, and that is quite rife within the world and stuff like that, and is probably not given as much forefront as it should do. So I think this has a very good message that is very portrayed really, and I can see why this is like the second highest grossing Disney Pixar movie behind, I think, Incredibles 2 it was. So, and me and my wife, so I went with my wife to see this, and she absolutely loved it, and I did. It's the second film we've seen this year together, and she didn't really like the first one, and this one, she absolutely loved it. It was so well done, and there were so many things that I think it is almost a return to form on Disney of when they have a solid story and something that should be told, you know, and just told in a nice way. It just perfectly hits the thing. The fact they brought the lady who did Sadness, was in retirement for 6 years and got her to voice stuff, was great. The two actor and actress who didn't return to voices, I don't think were really mad. I miss Bing Bong. They had a little statue of him in the beginning, and obviously they are references to an old computer game, which I thought was very clever. Overall, I would rate this movie 7.8 out of 10. Obviously, because it's a franchise movie, it will never be 10 out of 10, but I think it's such a good story and such a good undertone, and for kids, and hopefully like kids do enjoy this experience of watching this movie, but then it does open our eyes a little bit to what people with anxiety and other issues deal with. Hopefully it makes them be better people, or better people overall. But yeah, that has been my review of Inside Out 2. Have you seen it? Let me know your thoughts and feelings in the comments down below. Otherwise, I shall see you in the next one.